Hello, everyone. Happy New Year, and lovely to see everyone back to Early Intervention Matters podcast. I really hope you all had a lovely holiday. We are really looking forward to the new year and all it's bringing for us. Early Intervention had quite a busy 2025, and we're kicking off, not waiting at all. I'm really pleased today that we have a very important guest across the continent, and we're going to hear a lot about neurodiversity in Africa and what that's being done. So, just to recap, Early Intervention Matters podcast is a podcast that provides information on several topics on neurodiversity, and its aim is to help improve public awareness, provide information to the public, families, and young people on what neurodiversity is, the different types, how to recognize it, and tips, practical tips for families and professionals and the public. So we've had different topics, but we continue to bring more topics to this podcast session. So I'm Dr. Inyang Takon. I'm a neurodevelopmental pediatrician. I practice in the UK. I have been doing so for over 20 years in the UK, but I've been a pediatrician for about 30 years. So I'm very fortunate that I've been able to practice both in Africa and the United Kingdom. So I'm really keen on the discussion today. So I just want to welcome Joshua. Joshua's full names are Ayanwole Boluwatife Joshua, but we will refer to him as just Joshua today. And before I go on, Joshua has honored us today. It's his birthday. Can you imagine? He has spared us this day to join us on the podcast. So I just want everybody listening to send good wishes, birthday wishes down Joshua's way. And he's doing a great job. It will even be greater. Thank you, Joshua. We look forward to
Thank you, Dr.
more collaborative work with you. Thank you. Great. So I met Joshua on LinkedIn. And it's one of those connections that LinkedIn does so well, brings people in your sphere. And became very interested in the work that he was doing. And it just keyed into my vision. And I linked in with him and we connected. And in terms of discussion, I now said, please, can you come on our podcast? And I was quite honored when he accepted to do so. So in our discussion, in our brief chat, found out that Joshua and I went to the same university, University of Ibadan, premier university, the one and only in Nigeria. Anybody that knows the University of Ibadan will know that it's a very solid and sound university. It's almost like being in the Cambridge in the United Kingdom. It is a very good institution. So I was extremely pleased that it had such solid foundation. So I'm just going to allow Joshua to introduce himself, give us a brief summary of what we do, Joshua, and then we're going to talk more.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Inyang. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Ayanwole Boluwatife Joshua. I'm a neurodiversity advocate and special education needs specialist in Africa, Nigeria to be precise. So also I double as Ion the 35 team lead. So the work I do, I advocate about neurodiversity, supporting individual on the autism spectrum and other neurodevelopmental condition. And I've been doing this for quite a number of years. And I hope that this podcast is going to bring an inspiration. It's going to be an answered question to different parents out there that are seeking for answers to their neurodiverse individual or children. Over the years, what I've been doing is awareness about neurodevelopmental condition, most particularly the condition autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, and other specific learning disabilities, dyscalculia, dyslexia, dysorthography, and so many other things. The aim is to end stigma and to create more awareness for parents to know what to do, what to be done, and how to help individuals who are neurodiverse. Thank you so much. I look forward to a wonderful session with you.
Thank you. That's wonderful. And I know that you have extensive experience in, talking to families, advocating in different spheres, in education. I think some of that is going to come out in the conversation. So we'll hear a bit more about that.
Sure.
So we just want you to share, can you share a bit of your story and what actually led you into neurodiversity advocacy? Because it's quite rare to find people in this field. We want more people in the field. I think that's one of the things that really captivated me about your work. So, what led you into being a neurodiversity advocate?
Okay. Thank you for that question. The first thing is number one, awareness level. I think that's the bedrock. The awareness level in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, is very, very low. And also, I'll be sharing some bits of story why I was growing up, some of the challenges I faced while growing up with specific learning disabilities. So one of the major reasons why I decided to be advocating for neurodiversity is so that the awareness level can cut across board. Now, people are not aware of the condition, and those people that even know about the condition, they don't know what to do. So, and we can only get to know about something when we start talking about it, when we start having a conversation about it, when we start addressing the problem. And you will agree with me that in Africa, there is something called stigma. Rather, people stigmatize, people segregate. If a particular person has autism syndrome or any other specific learning disability, people decide to segregate, they stereotype. Even the society doesn't help matters. If it's not from the parents, if it's not from the family, it's going to be coming from the society, it's going to come from the close friends. So all these things needs to stop. And there's a lot of reason why some people perceive that these people, they are stupid. Some people perceive they don't have sense. Some people perceive they have low IQ. It's for us to debunk all these myths and try to address the real problem. It's about strengthening and increasing their strength over their weaknesses. So in summary, the reason why I'm advocating or I'm in this space is number one, to create awareness. Number two, to end stigma. Number three, to serve as strength to parents or individuals that have children with one neurodevelopmental condition or the other. And the last thing, so that we can make Africa a home of inclusion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joshua. I love what you've said to improve awareness and also inclusion. I like that word inclusion because I remember when I was training in Nigeria, doing my pediatric training, we were not talking about neurodiversity. We were not talking about neurodisability, even though we're seeing children who we know, but we now have better understanding. But I must say, even among clinical scenarios, clinical institutions, that awareness was very low. So after I came over to the UK to train, I now had more understanding of the fact that a lot of the children that we were seeing, a lot could have been done for them, but because of that lack of awareness. So it wasn't even just the public, it was also the fact
Yeah.
that in hospitals, in institutions, which you would expect the clinicians to know, it wasn't the case. People did not understand. And so that training, that awareness needs to go across board. It's not just for the public. I did one of my projects on going to schools in Lagos to assess children's vision in school. And that was when it hit me that there were many children in schools with significant difficulties. There were children who couldn't see the boards, but who were sitting in class, and it was very disheartening. And that's one of the things I decided that, just like one of the things that made me interested in the work I do. And my
That's
vision,
fantastic.
thank you, my vision has always been to forge improving awareness and improving recognition and empowering families. So I'm really pleased about what you said. Now, you said you have had your own experiences growing up. Do you want to shed a bit more light about that?
In Nigeria, to be precise, while growing up, I faced one of the specific learning disability called dyscalculia. And to those people that might not know what dyscalculia is, basically, it's inability to know math. When a person doesn't know how to solve mathematical calculations, basic arithmetic mathematical calculations is a problem. So to the extent that when they ask you 2 plus 2, you are trying to reason what's 2 plus 2. Was it all about 3 plus 3, 4 plus 4, 6 plus 6? Basically, the arithmetic problems becomes an issue to the extent that I could not help myself with this. I started looking forward for a way how I can increase my strength over my weaknesses. But where I'm growing up, the society where I'm growing up does not support me, does not support the matter. They don't know there is a condition called dyscalculia. And that is one of the reasons why I mentioned awareness at first. So when I was growing up, I have difficulties with math. I always look at my brothers to whisper answers to me. Maybe when my dad is teaching me some basic arithmetics, or maybe when the teacher is coming to say, okay, what's this, Joshua? I'll just be looking at one corner over there to look at my brother. The reason why I'm looking at them is so that they can whisper the answer and come to echo whatsoever answers they have provided. So that's why I was coping. I was coping with it. My brother who stood over there will whisper the answer to me. I'm going to tell my dad or whoever. I'll be looking at him. He's saying, four, 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 whisper. I will say four. He said, okay, good job. You get that. But deep inside of me, I don't know it. It was my brother that was helping me. So when I got to school, high school, the matter became worse to the extent that teachers start reinforcing us with cane, lashes, to the extent that they started creating anxiety. If they give you a math equation and you can't provide the answer, instead of them to treat you with love, with patience, they will not do that. They rather believe that you are lazy or you are not intent to work. So they don't have the right approach to the condition dyscalculia. The math teacher now delights pressure. He derives pressure in beating students. That is where his pleasure lies. If you can't get the answer, I'm going to beat you. To the extent that we students start seeing K, and that doesn't give us an open mind to learn whatsoever things they are teaching us. So I battle with this for a longer period of time. At home, the same thing, the community, people start stigmatizing, it doesn't know math. But talking about other subjects, I was doing okay. I was fantastic with other subjects, English, Introtech, and some other subjects. They were all good. But talking about math is a bottleneck for me. So I could not help the matter. So I tried to seek help, and thanks to God, I can't just overemphasize God on this. Thanks to God, God really helped me. So as I was growing up, I started learning, I started reading books, and I get to know the condition. When I got to the university, I narrowly escaped maths. I wanted to study law. So I did my post-UTME. When I did my post-UTME, I aced the exam. I think I scored 70. So I was so happy that I'm going to get law. So when the cutoff mark came out, I think it remains 0.3. They have to divide it. There's a way they divide it in Nigeria. Your post-UTME score divided by 4, if I'm not mistaken. Your JAM score divided by 2. So they are going to put the aggregate together. So when I had that high score, I was so happy that, oh, it's time for me to go and study law. But the fact that there's a mission for me to increase awareness and also to help other individuals with neurodiverse condition, I was put in the Department of Special Education, University of Ibadan. How do I know? When the cutoff mark came out, it remains 0.3 for me to enter law. So they now decided that, okay, you can't enter law, but this is what we are going to do for you. We are going to put you in another field. So that's when I got to know about special education. They said special education. I said, what's special education? I have to read more about special education. I did my personal research. So what do I want to do this for? But I took my time. I was patient. I have guidance. My mom said, no, 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 Joshua, don't think like that. Try to study it, read about it, and try to save something you can do. I make more research about special education. I really understood what it's all about. And I feel quite okay. Let me go for it. But something that happened at a particular point in time, the cutoff mark for special education was so low compared to the high score I had for law. Let's assume law was 74. Special education cutoff mark was around 50. I was furious. I said, why would I go and study special education when I have high score? I don't want to waste my high score for special education. But in the long run, when I studied what it's all about, I knew quite well that it's time for me to go in and try to enlighten others. So I started my journey with special education, and I started advocating from University of Ibadan to the extent that I started creating policies to support individuals with disability. Those people that if this podcast is reaching people in Nigeria, and I know it's going to reach them, most particularly people in University of Ibadan, I created a lot of policy because I was a student leader to support individuals with disability and other neurodevelopmental conditions. What I'm saying in essence is my childhood experience, I learned some lessons, built me to advocate, to support others, and it has shaped my journey in order to help individuals that are struggling with specific learning disability and other neurodevelopmental conditions. So, and here am I today. Here am I today. I'm still advocating across Africa, in Ghana, in different places I can't remember right now. But We'll continue to be advocating until inclusion is generalized everywhere. So that's my journey, Dr.
Thank you. That's such
Dr.
a remarkable journey. And thank you for telling that story, because I think that there will be listeners that will be really empowered by your journey. Just, I think one of the things that I could also get from your journey was that you had supportive parents, because I think
Yeah,
your from the story you've talked about, your mother, encouraged you to go and take that journey. I think one of the things that's
yeah,
quite good is because being from that community myself, I know sometimes people are very fixed on certain courses, and there would be families that would have said, "No, Joshua, you have to read that law because we want you to be a
yeah.
lawyer. So you won't enter this time. You will go back again and again and again and try until you get into law." I've seen that happen.
It's relative.
Yes, it's very
Yeah, yeah. It's true,
relatable.
true.
Yeah, but look at the
It's true.
impact that you're having from going to study special education. I think it's just a really remarkable story that you've given to. And just for our listeners, just taking that on board is that journeys do not have to be linear, and you
Yeah.
you've actually, and again, you worked on not only just learning but taking that information and empowering people around you. And I think this is
Yeah.
one of the things that we're trying to do, is that when people have knowledge, you can empower people around you.
Sure.
And that, I believe, is part of the work you do, is by improving people's knowledge to empower those around them. And in schools, with other professionals, you're doing that as well in your work. So well done, and well done for what you're continuing to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So just going on again. So when you're talking to, obviously a lot of people don't understand the terminologies, they don't understand neurodiversity. Some people, may have heard of it before, some people know. So what do you usually say when you're explaining this to people who do not have any knowledge about these conditions? Say, for example, you're talking to families who don't understand, they just know the child has some differences. How do you tend to frame that conversation?
Okay. Okay. To begin with, the term neurodiversity simply means variations in human brain. Neurodiversity. So that is differences in human brain. So, and in a layman language, we can say that individuals have different brains. Their brains are wired differently. There is a term we call something neurotypical, and we call something neurodivergent. Neurotypical is what people perceive that, oh, it's general. This is an ideal way a person should behave. This is an ideal brain. Neurodivergence, at the other side, simply means the person have diversity. That's differences in human brain. He has a different way the brain operates. It's about the variation of human brains. But the brain is very, very complex. Time will not permit me. I would have tried to talk about different segments of the brain. We have the frontal lobe, we have the occipital lobe, we have the parental lobe, we have the parental temporal lobe, and others. So all these parts of the brain, they have their own functions and use, and that contributes to the way everybody behaves in the society and everybody behaves in the community. But to individuals who are neurodivergent, their brain are wired differently from neurotypicals. We have different brains. The way brains are wired, they are all different. It's not a single. It's not one. So we should not assume that there is just a single typical human brain. No, there are There are variations. The other side of it, which is neurodivergent, is a person who has the condition either autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, and some other specific learning disabilities. And those are the people that characterize Those are the people that characterize neurodiversity, which is the differences in human brain.
I think you've explained that really well, because I think one of the things that we want people to people's minds are usually that there's just one expectation of how people should be functioning.
Oh no,
And that's what usually
no,
causes problems. And I think that one of the things you said was people look at an ideal and think that that's the way everybody should be. And I think that's one of the things that causes people to have different types of behaviors when they come across
yeah,
people who are neurodivergent. So it's not something that some people look at a child who's neurodivergent and think the child is sometimes doing it deliberately, or it's
uh-huh.
due to the parents' fault. But I think you've explained it quite well for our audience. Good. And I think when you break that down, what's usually the way do you get that people understand that? Is there any other thing that you use in explaining the that process to them?
Okay, yes, please. Yes, please. It's not everybody that tends to know about the term. Even the term neurodiversity that we are using now is not, it's unpopular in the 90s. It's not becoming more popular recently because nobody understand or nobody understood the term neurodiversity in previous years. But it is now that the term is becoming more obvious. The best way we can also make people to know about the condition without having a big word is when you notice that there is differences in the way a person is behaving, and it's not as if it's not out of the fact that the person is behaving or is acting intentionally, you tend to notice that, oh, there is differences in milestones of development, in the way the child behaves, in the way he acts, in the way he communicates. Let's take, for example, autism. Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects social interaction, verbal and non-verbal communication, right? So with this, and one of the major key things you have to look in a child to know whether the child is on the autism spectrum is you will try to see social deficits, meaning quite well that the person is not relating well with other people in the environment, and there would be verbal and non-verbal communication skills. Verbal communication is trying to use words. Non-verbal communications are clear gestures. So the person is not understanding gestures, even clear, he doesn't understand. You try to signal to the person, he doesn't get to know what you are talking about. So those are like the way we can try to explain to layman or people in order to understand the concept that, oh, if you notice all these signs, tend to know quite well that your child is neurodivergent. If the person is lacking social skills, if the person is having verbal and non-verbal communication, deficit in social skills, and also another condition is Down syndrome. But those are some of the conditions that characterized neurodiversity. Another is dyslexia. Dyslexia is a reading disability. Dyscalculia, I said it earlier, that's in difficulties in understanding math. Dysorthography, that's difficulties in writings. So some of all these conditions encapsulate together to bring the term neurodiversity. So in short, when you notice that a child is behaving differently from what you consider as normal, I always address the word. No parent should be using normal. It's not acting normal. No, 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 no. We are not meant to use that word. If a child is not behaving like a typical human being the way we think he should, there's a need for us to know quite well that that child might be neurodivergent. But it's not about assumption. It's about assessment. And that's another key thing. You can't just assume and say, oh, I think I've heard in the podcast they said if he's not relating well, if he's not speaking at the time he's meant to speak, that means quite well that this child has disability or this child has autism. No, you are meant to go and conduct assessments. With that, you cannot know if the child is on the spectrum because those people that's going to perform, that's going to do the assessment, they are using standardized scale for that. So that's basically the ideology of neurodiversity in the basic form.
Thank you. And thank you for saying that there needs to be assessment because as pediatricians, we know that there are many reasons why a child may not be communicating, may not be speaking. So when those assessments are being done, it's important to consider whether any of those other issues, is the child anxious, is the child, is there something else that's going on around the child that's causing the child not to speak. Assessments are very important in helping to decide whether the child has a need. So before we come to assessment, what does a typical day look like for you in your role as an advocate?
Look, I have to be sincere as a professional, ethic. But the point is, if you are passionate about something, you have heard my story. Something is behind it. So even if it's very stressful, I won't stop. And as a matter of fact, I want to really firstly appreciate God because those children or individual I've worked on, their drastic improvements. The person that is not verbalizing, the child is 4, he has not been verbalizing. He started verbalizing when we started therapy. So basically, it's always ethic because therapy is not a joke, it's a real work. So those people that know what they are doing, it's not about the theory, it's about the application. Because there are some things that is going to happen outside the theoretical aspect of what you have read.
Yeah.
So the way you have read it is not the way it's going to play out when you are practicing or when you are with children on the autism spectrum. My camera is not enough. I would have zoomed something for you. I have maths. scarce. When the child started throwing tantrum or is very being aggressive, there was a time the child pinched me, so blood started gushing out. So that's one of it. But I never quit because we are modelers. We have to model a behavior to be acceptable. We have to model the child so that the child can become functional. So in short, it's ethic, but with God's grace and with due diligence and being persistent with therapy, intervention, there are great improvements and the child is becoming more functional day by day.
So when you say yes, it's really hectic, what kind of therapy do you tend to offer in the environment, in our environment in Africa?
We have different approaches. One of it, we have something called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mm-hmm.
We have one also called ABA, applied behavioral analysis. And also we have what we call floor time approach. So as for me, I engage in combinations. I do different research. I try to look at this is what ABA is saying, this is what CBT is saying, this is what floor time, DIR, it's saying, and I try to make it holistic. So I would say the approach in which I use as a therapist or as a special educationist is number one, building a strong emotional connection with the child. And that has to do with DIR, the floor time approach. There should be an emotional connection with the child first. You have to establish bond. You have to build a relationship. If a child is going to listen to you, most particularly a child who is on the autism spectrum or a neurodiverse child or neurodivergent individual, you have a strong emotional connection. Don't let the child see you as a threat. For me, I always play. That's why I said when the child um haunts me over here, I do not fight back. I did not beat. I did not scream at him. I said, no, look at its blood. And before you know it, says sorry, sorry, sorry. So it was a state of emotional connection between myself and the child. And that later leads to a lot of positive feedbacks because the child gets comfortable with me and everything I ask him to do in terms of therapy, in terms of visual perception, in terms of motor skills, the child started imitating actions and gestures. But the bedrock of this is because I have built an emotional connection and relationship, a good bonding with that particular child. So the child knows quite well that he is safe with me anytime I'm with him. So that creates a lot of positive feedback and reinforcement from my side and from his side. Okay. So another thing is reinforcement. You tend to reinforce the child, positive reinforcement. You have done well, fantastic, marvelous job. So what we are saying in essence is you have to build a good emotional connection with the child you are working with. For example, I always do that. And that's the aspect of reinforcement, positive reinforcement. If a child has done something that what, make sure you reinforce the child because that serves as a propellant for him to do more. Oh, good job, good job. I love that. Don't just do as if that thing is so small. So try to reinforce the child positively so that the child can know quite well that, oh, these things I've done, my therapy sees as something worth doing. I will do more of it. So basically, those are some of the approaches we use in addressing behavioral problems with individual on the autism spectrum and other neurodiverse conditions. We have quite a number of other ways, but for now, those are the ones I can lay my hands on.
Thank you. Thank you, Joshua, for explaining that so well. And I think one of the things that you explained is obviously from the therapy sessions, you have an understanding of the child. You build a bond, which is very important. And that is so important because we should remember that children with autism, when they are not aware of who is coming near them or they're in a different environment, it can be very daunting for them. And the
Defensive.
behaviors that they exhibit is communicating that anxiety,
Yeah.
which people may not understand. You do explain that to the families, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
How do you get the children that come to you?
Talking about the children or individual I work with, the first one is when you know what you are doing, people are going to refer people to your site. And if a child makes significant progress and people can see around, they will tend to recommend another person to come towards you. And secondly, I work in a center where we have individuals who are on the autism spectrum, children who are on the autism spectrum. And also, I've also worked in a center where we have young adults who are on the autism spectrum and other neurodiverse conditions. So, talking about those places, I work over there as a therapist, as a specialist. During assessments, I conduct assessments for them. When they need my service, they reach out to me. But what is most particular is the fact that once there is improvement and there is positive feedback, people will come towards you and bring children for positive results. And just to add to that, we have individuals coming from the UK, from the US, that have come to the center where I work just because they know quite well that, oh, therapy is working over here and they have really seen improvements. And also we have a record of people, I think, that came for holiday maybe for 2 or 3 months. They just came to the center, and before they left, there was significant improvement to the extent that one is even contemplating dropping the child in Nigeria because the level of improvement she noticed in Nigeria was over the one she observed at where she was coming from.
And what do you think made that difference? What?
Sincerely, there is a lot, but I'm just going to mention maybe a few, maybe one or two. The first thing is, how often is the child getting the therapy session? We have one-on-one, we have group session. In some other geographical location, there is no enough one-on-one. One-on-one is you sit with the child, you tend to understand the child individually. There's something we call IEP, Individualized Educational Plan. Now, if a child has an individualized educational plan, and the process of you addressing that IEP is not individualized, it's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
And that's one of the differences. Now, over there, where they are coming from, there might not be enough time for them to go through a thorough therapy the way it happens over here in Africa. And I'm not trying to downplay any other organizations, but what I'm saying is, from my own experience, from the research, and from the evidence base, children on the autism spectrum needs time. They are not like a neurotypical that you are just saying, do this, and it's going to act like that. You have to devote time, you have to observe the process, and you have to even notice the child. So if a therapist does not try to observe the child and know the child, if you are just using any random method, there's not going to be a significant improvement. So the first thing I said is enough time. You have to have enough time with the child. You have to create a time for you to understand the child. The second one is the fact that you have to create enough resources to work with. Now, some people have the best resources, but they don't know how to use the resources. You should be able to know how to administer different resources for the child. For example, let me take the domain visual perception. Visual perception is the ability for the child to recognize color and to recognize objects. For example, one match identical objects. Example of identical object is banana to banana. So some places does not have regalia that's going to bring the image of what banana looks like. Let's assume they are improvising and they are bringing something that is not realistic for the child to see in various environments. And you are saying, this is banana, this is banana, this is banana. But you are not offering the banana for the child to know that this is banana. At the end of the day, there is not going to be a result. So the resources have to be smart. It has to be specific. It has to be accurate. It has to be measurable. And it has to be time bound. So let me just leave those two for now.
Thank
There's
you.
still a lot, but if you have to respond to
Yeah.
that, this is going to take a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you. I think you've raised some very important facts, and that's that when you're working with children, you are making it consistent. You're making it, almost predictable for the child because that's how you measure progress. And you're right, the resources in many places are not there or very limited. So people are not having the level of intervention that they would normally have. So it's taking longer to see such progress. And
Yes.
that's one of the things is that you've invested time and also consistency in working with
Yeah.
with the child and young people.
Let me add to this, Doc. And that's the aspect of generalization. There's also a problem of generalization that therapist does not make a child to generalize something across board. For example, a child you have trained, a child you have administered therapy to, if that child is not generalizing that things you have
Yes.
taught him or her, is not applicable yet. It's not going to be as if, oh, but he's doing it when I'm with him. No, 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 no. The child doesn't need
Yeah.
to do it when you alone are with him. It has to do it across
Yeah.
board. If he can find a pen at school, he should be able to also see a pen at home and say, "Mom, this is a pen. That's a pen. That's a car." But if it's only that, oh, it's only this environment that this child is bringing this behavior, exhibiting what I asked him to do, there is still a lot of work to be done because the aspect of generalization must not be missing.
You are extremely correct, and that's one of the problems of therapy. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago. I did a focus group with some families in Nigeria who have been having different therapy sessions, and we had a speech and language therapist with us from the UK. And one of the things many of them were talking about the difficulties that they had with accessing therapy, continuity. And one of the things that was quite clear, it was this lack of generalization, that people will work with the families there with the child, but does not help the child to generalize that. So no
Yes.
matter how much you spend or how much time you spend, if the child cannot carry that
Generalized.
information to other places. So yes, you've raised a very important point, Joshua, and thank you. And for our listeners, for families, if your child is going through therapy, it's important to raise that with your therapist to find out, because that's how you measure the outcome. Is this thing working?
Yes.
You've given us some positive feedback about people you've worked with where there's progress seen. And I believe that progress is because you've been consistent, you've taken so many things into account. Yeah.
Intentionality.
So, yeah, thank you. And so, on average, how many sessions do families tend to see you for?
It depends on their plans. That's it. We can't tell a family that this is how you want to. It depends on what they want to operate because everything is based on number one, yeah, what they can afford. No doubt, therapy costs a lot. It's costly. Therapy is costly. So we have hourly session and we have one-on-one. It depends on their choice. Some people might decide, okay, I want you to come and see my child maybe 1.5 hour at home. Some people will bring them at the center for 3 or 4 hours. So that works too. So it depends on them. It's not on the therapist. But I've talked averagely on how we operate. If it is one-on-one at home, nothing less than 1 hour, 30 minutes. And trust me, it's not all the 1 hour, 30 minutes that the child is going to utilize well. No,
Yeah,
because remember, there's going to be throwing of tantrum in
yeah,
that 1 hour,
yeah,
30 minutes. There's going to be, oh, you just have to be dancing so that the child, there's going to be bonding. If at all is a new client or is a new child, oh, I have to bond with this child. And also sometimes can just be play. And that's what people don't even pay attention to. Play works a lot. There's a conference that we did late last year is about play. Play is dynamic. Something, the synergy between neurotypical and neurodivergent is play. The same way neurotypical love play. That's the same way neurodivergent children or individuals, they also like to play. So if you know how to utilize your play, we have solitary play, we have different kind of play, we have independence play. So if you know how to utilize the play method very well, you are going to enjoy the child and you are going to see more results. Let me mention this at this point in time. It's still under the umbrella of what we have been discussing. The knowledge of how to deal with a child of the autism spectrum or neurodevelopmental condition is not about only being certified. Because I think there's now a lot of mix up now because everybody's not telling that, oh, I've seen some people that they are delving into the feed just because of what they are going to see in it, the money they are going to earn from it. When I was dividing autism, I make a definition of autism in 2025. I said the understanding of autism should go beyond merchandising the condition. Now, because people are now seeing it as oh, this is a new market in town. If you want to do anything, to the extent that those people that are not qualified, they are crossing into the profession just to make merchandise of the profession, just for the money. Remember, a child is at stake, a life is at stake.
absolutely.
You are building a milestone for a particular child. And that's the reason why I always, whenever I had time to talk about this, I spoke with professionals in Ghana and I told them about this. So because some people have it at the back of their mind, if I want to go to this profession, I need to go and get the ABA certification. And once I can call myself certified. The knowledge of autism is about being certified, not making reference to one certification, either ABA or no ABA. So it's about you understanding the condition. It's about you devoting time. It's about research. As I'm working in the field, I'm doing research too. Because anything I see physically at the field, I bring it home to say, okay, if this thing works like this. And also, I delve into neuroscience. That's the understanding of the brain. As I'm understanding the behavior, I'm trying to see how the brain works. What is the difference between the brain of neurotypical and neurodivergent? So I want to address people that are listening to us at this period of time. It's good you are coming to the field. We are looking forward to people that will join us in increasing their awareness and also to make the life of individuals on the autism spectrum and other neurodiverse conditions to be better. Note, it should come from the mind of being empathetic, from the empathy point of view. Be passionate about it. We are not saying you are not going to see the result of the work you do. Everybody works for money, but don't let it be your driving force. Let the life of the boy or the child you are having or the client you are having be a driving force towards growth. Because some people will say, I've been working for nothing less than 5 or 10 years. But can you point to a child and say, this is the child I built up For the period of experience I've been working, by the special grace of God, I can point to, oh, this boy, I've helped him. This is the milestone he is now. It's a joy to you as a therapist because you know quite well that you are formed and molded a life. And it's going to shock you at the end of the day, a child that is manifesting, that is on severe, that they has a high severity with autism spectrum. When therapy comes in and is consistent and it is effective, it's going to be as if the autism was reversed because the person is going to be functioning and people are not going to notice so much. So, in essence, let me summarize it. We are looking forward to people to come into the profession, but we are looking for professionals. We are looking for passionate mind. We are not just looking for people that want to merchandise the condition just for them to have money for themselves. And no, the knowledge of autism is more than I am certified. You have to be intentional about the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. You've said this excellently well. I think you've just taken one of the questions and thought processes in my mind. And I'm so glad you covered this, because just like you, I have noticed that um yes, there's the prevalence of the condition has increased. I think what you
Yeah.
have said is so important. It should come from the position of genuine empathy and wanting to see a child being well supported and making the relevant progress and just improving the
Yes.
well-being and quality of life of
Yes.
the child and family. And I think this is one of the things that came out in the focus group that we did, that some families were frustrated because, their desperation was being taken advantage of. Many families want help, but unfortunately, sometimes they don't always meet the professionals who are that empathetic, and people can take advantage of parents' desperation. I've seen this happening many times. And I'm so happy that you address this, because anybody listening to you knows from what you have said, you've got the background training, you've done a degree in special education, you've had lived experiences yourself, you've worked with people. So you've gone on a trajectory. You did not just come into it and say it's an aside. You've come into it from a genuine position of your experience wanting to help others, and it shows from the way you work. You've explained how you worked with children. It shows the passion and the interest that you have in people. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
the work you're doing, because it is fantastic work. And as a clinician, I'm pleased to see, you as a professional doing this and having a genuine interest, and, not taking advantage of parents' desperation, but being empathetic.
That's it.
Yes, I realize our time is going and we
Thank
don't
you.
want you to spend your whole birthday doing a podcast with us. We've
Okay.
absolutely enjoyed this, and we hopefully will
Okay.
have you back, and we do some more work with you. So we've talked a lot about things. We've talked about neurodiversity. We've talked about the work you do. We talked about the advocacy. What would you say to parent or young person who's just received a diagnosis and is feeling overwhelmed? It can be quite
Ah,
daunting.
ah,
As parents, it might start suspecting that there's something wrong, but as you know, as every parent, they don't want to confront it. They might be averse to it. But and you know that across continents, and I'm pleased to have been fortunate to have trained across continent and worked across the continent. So I know very much what happens in Nigeria, having been a professional there myself. And I know that it's not always easy for people to acknowledge these conditions. And it's also not always easy when families, even if it's within the same household, couples might disagree. And I'm sure you've come across that. Where parents disagree
sure.
in in their take on what the child has, or whether the child should go and be assessed or not. So, what would you say
Sure.
to a parent or young person? Because I know that lots of people will be listening to this in many communities where these things are very relevant. What would you say to a parent or young person?
Thank you for that question. That's a very sensitive question. The first thing is know that you are not alone. That should be the first thing. Know that you are not alone. Find community. Seek solace in others. And I think there'll come to a point whereby I will still have to address on the topic of building community for neurodivergent parents. because it is needed. This question you just asked me, one of the neighbors asked me this question. I think that was last week. And the point is, was trying to express the agony or the feeling that the person he was living with, the feeling she was having. And that's the fact that she was overwhelmed. So the first way to address is know that you are not alone. Second thing, seek for help, not sympathy. Seek for help. Help is out there. One of the help is what Dr. Inyang is doing now, the podcast. Once you listen to it, you know what to do. One of the help is what I'm doing over here. Basically, we are providing an information that should be monetized, but we are giving that for free. So the first thing you need to do is number one, don't overwhelm yourself. You are not alone. Speak out to people. And one of the problems is some people hide their condition when the answer is out there. Maybe you are saying, oh, you don't know the condition of this child. The severity is so high. Is it profound? I can tell you that even if the condition is profound, once that condition meets an accurate and timely therapy, it's going to ameliorate. The condition is going to be limited. We are not saying autism is going to disappear. No, it can't. But you are going to see, the child is going to become functional. He will be happy. So the first thing I've said is number one, you are not alone. Number two is seek help. Number three, speak out. You have to speak out. Don't hide. Don't hide. Oh, no, 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 the child. Because some parents even do this. They will put the child at home when they go for social outings. And it's not their fault too. It's because they have been overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. Some people have even tried different models. We have some models of disability. We have the medical model. We have the social model. Some parents have tested a lot of medical models using drugs. I have to use drug. I have to use drug. I have to use drug. But see, the drug is not taking autism away. What I'm saying in essence is you have to speak out. Once you speak to people, people can recommend things you can do. It's not magic. I have to tell you the truth. It's not magic, but it's a process. But if you follow the process, it's going to work. And the last thing is don't let that condition eat you up. You have a life. There is no doubt. The social life, the financial life of parents that have neurodivergent individual is not the same. You can't see them partying. You can't see them just go to social gathering just anyhow. Because at the back of their mind, the child is at home that they are looking for. Hope this child is not mouthing anything. Hope the child is not mouthing soap. Hope the child is not banging something on his head to those people that have aggressive behavior. But the thing is, you have to know quite well that you two have the social life. Don't let the condition make you to dress anyhow outside. That people are going to be thinking as if, what's wrong with you? Is this person having a mental problem? Because that's one of the things we see in parents. A parent will even come for IEP meeting. The hair will be tattered. We are not trying to say quite well that they are not going through a lot. But out of it, your mental health is more important. Remember, you are alive because the child is alive. And also, the child is alive because you are alive. But guess what? Nobody is praying for death. The child will continue to exist maybe when the parent has gone. And if the child also had gone, the parent still will exist. Everybody has a single life. Once you are showing empathy, you are showing caring, take care of yourself. Don't let your mental health be at stake due to the condition of your child, but rather invest more in functional therapy that will increase the functional level of your child and that will make you to have peace. In summary, what I've said so far is you are not alone. Find a community of parents that have the condition and also talk to professionals like people like us and say, oh, if you reach out to me after this podcast, Dr. Yang might drop my number or my email address. If you need help or something, reach out to me. We can give you some advice that's going to help you and that is going to build more functional skills for your child. Of truth, is the child that is having autism. But if you look at the parents or if you look at the mother has been overwhelmed with stress, with life of what would this boy look like in the next 5 or 6 years, in the next 10 years? What is the transition of adulthood for this child? Know that you are not the one that creates that child. That child was not created by you. So leave the child in the hand of the creator as you are engaging in therapy. And also, if you're a person of faith, faith also cannot be overemphasized. Faith in God. There's nothing God cannot do. Like I did tell, there's this aspect of professionalism and there's aspect of faith. The fact that you believe in the therapy that we do, that's why it works. The fact that we believe in the work that we do, that's why it's working. So don't let your faith waver. Your faith must not be shaken. And also do the necessary to increase the functional level of your child who is on the autism spectrum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joshua. And I think what you've just been saying is the greatest gift you could have given to lots of families on your birthday. And I think that I really appreciate what you have said, and I'm sure many families listening to this because you have sacrificed your time to actually give this very valuable information to families. It is so important. Self care is very, very important. A sick parent is not going to be of much value to the child if the parents are completely worn down. So families need to realize that. And I like what you said is seek help, not empathy, not pity, not sympathy. Because sometimes people are going from one place to the other, or people you're telling your stories to people are giving you sympathy, but they're not giving you help. And I think that is so important. People can listen to your stories, and the way people can find out about help is seeking the community, the right community. So I think that what you have given us is excellent. About our last question now. Um, with all you're doing so much in terms of advocacy, and I think at the beginning you told us the key things that you're doing this. You want Africa to be that place of inclusion. You want people to be more aware. You want them to receive the rights. What do you see as a hopeful future for neurodivergent children and adults? What would you want to see? Was your wish? So today is your birthday. Your birthday wish
Okay.
for
Oh,
for neurodiversity. What is it?
action. That's number one. Just 5 things. Action. Take action. Don't leave the child. Number two, get to know. Awareness. Action. That's number one. Number two, awareness, get to know. How can you be aware? How can you be informed? By listening to this podcast, by also trying to come to conferences where they talk about neurodevelopmental conditions, by adding to your knowledge. Number three, that goes to the therapist. Do your work with due diligence so that we can have functional individual with autism. We can have individuals that are more functional so that we can be proud of the work. We can make reference to government parastatals, good policies. We want policy that will support individual on the autism spectrum. We want policy that will support neurodivergent individual, neurodivergent children. We want policy that will make us to have enough health care centers for children on the autism spectrum and other neurodiverse conditions. It is so disheartening that over here in Africa, generally, not only in Nigeria, we hardly have public centers for autism. Most of the autism centers are owned by private enterprises. Maybe the parents of the child has autism, so the parents just requires whether why can't I create an NGO that will support and make other children also to be functional as a result of the therapy that the child of that parent received. That's the case that is happening in Nigeria and most of the African countries. Most of the centers we have are private owned. And it's because, number one, maybe their child or their children, they are on the autism spectrum and they have been helping lives, they have been building lives. Why can't government also do this? As a wish for me, to all government parastatals, if you have chance of to listen to this podcast, and I know you are going to, please, we are pleading, we are urging. In Africa, in Nigeria, let's build public centers for children on the autism spectrum, and you can have a grant of research for professionals. We can see how much US is reimbursing on how to find the cure for autism. But over here in Africa, that we don't even have enough resources, we are taking it to levity, and we don't even have a single center when they are even talking about the cure. So the last one I hope for is better life. Better life.
Yeah.
I want the parents of a neurodivergent individual to see a child on the autism spectrum, a child with Down syndrome, a child with dyscalculia, a child with dyslexia, and smile and say, I won at the end of the day. This is my wish for everyone.
Thank you, Joshua. That is such an amazing close that you've given to this session. I think I've just been captivated by the passion that you have to make things better, the passion you have with your work, the passion you have with supporting families, the passion you have with seeing children, young people live functional lives, functional individuals. It's
My
not just
pleasure.
downing therapy, but it's about creating functional individuals that can contribute to society, that can excel in their own potential, and also helping parents as well. There are lots of parents that almost think it's a sentence once they've been told their child has a neuro disability. And we want that to change. And you've thrown out a call for challenge to government. I think every state government in Nigeria should take this as a challenge. And I just hope and hope that they would be able to pick up this call, because any of us can have children with neurodiversity. Anybody. It's not a discriminator. Anybody. So we shouldn't think that we're just doing it for some people. And therefore, we just hope that they're listening. And I do hope, Joshua, that your work continues to go beyond the shores and goes infiltrates into all the parts of Nigeria, that this advocacy and this
Yes,
education that you have
yes.
given this evening will reach many service centers, many people, because you're doing a fantastic job. Where can people find you? Because we want you to tell our audience where to find you, people who want to connect with you. If you can give us information on how they can connect with you, where they can find you, because many people will be listening today. Like you said, there are people who have come from across the continent to your center. You never know, there might be many other people who are listening today and want to explore that.
Okay, thank you. On LinkedIn, my name is Ayanwole Boluwatife Joshua. It's going to be attached on the video when it's out. And also, my email address is cayanwoleboluwatife@gmail.com. And also on LinkedIn, I'm always available. Once you reach out, work always go on every day, every month. Advocacy here and there, therapy here and there, making life of individual autism spectrums become more functional, addressing society, addressing barriers, addressing stigma in the society. So you can find me online. Once you search my name online, it's going to pop up. You can reach out to me on my email and my WhatsApp line. I can also drop my WhatsApp line just in case you want a quick chat. Um, that's +234 8107 804. That's my Nigeria line. Again, +234 8107 806004. So you can reach out to me. You can also connect with me on email as you want. On Instagram, Facebook, my name remains the same. Ayanwole Boluwatife Joshua. Thank you so much. I look forward to working with you, and I look forward to provide more advice that can make your child to become more functional.
Thank you so much, Joshua. So once again, Joshua, we're so grateful you chose to spend your birthday with us. But I must say, it's one of the most
Thank
rewarding
you, Dr.
gifts
Yang.
that you could have given anybody on your birthday, sharing knowledge. It keys into my dream and my desire to have more neurodiversity advocates in Nigeria. So what was my dream several years and years ago? I'm really happy to actually be
Yes.
living that dream by seeing you doing the work you're doing. And I hope we will be able to get many more genuine advocates in Nigeria and across Africa. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for bringing me on board. Thank you for creating your platform to be enlightening, insightful for parents and for people out there. Please
Thank
keep it
you.
on. You are doing an amazing job. Yourself and your team, and some other people that are behind the camera, all of you are doing fantastic job. Thank you so much. It's a great honor for me to be here. I do not take it for granted. I
Thank
appreciate.
you. Thank you. Thank you, Joshua.